Good morning, fellow classmates. My chapter is from A Defense of Liberty Against Tyrants, the Bible and American History, from the book Reading the Bible, The Founding Fathers. The author is Daniel Dreisbach. The Founding Fathers and the colonists were trying to justify their resistance of George III and his parliament. They justify this by biblical narratives and Bible scriptures such as 1 Peter 2:13 through 17 and Romans 13:1 through 7 and Acts 5:29. They use the biblical narratives such as David against Goliath and Saul and his tyranny of David, and in the Old Testament, Herod through the Roman Empire, who was also tyrannical. The most famous scripture cited was Romans 13:1. It was the first one in American Revolutionary, and Acts 5:29 was the fifth one that was most quoted. This was called resistance theological, which when the colonists came over from Europe, when they settled the colonies, they came with this idea from Martin Luther and John Knox. Martin Luther was against tyranny on the peasants' war in his country, but so many people died in the peasants' war, so he decided to switch sides, and he said that Luther denounced the violence and clarified that resistance to private constituted authority forbidden by divine right, and it was the questions. He also said it was Christians' duty to endure oppression no matter how tyrannical the rulers might be. 100,000 peasants died in this war. And we have John Calvin, who traveled with a man named Fair. They were trying to spread the Reformation in this country, and it was against the Catholics. And they were when their welcome wore out, they were kicked out. So we got this Pharaoh guy who was prophetic and a decisive figure who led the Reformation in the French-speaking territory, and he carried the movement to Geneva. He decided that Catholic churches were damaged or priests were publicly mocked, and the inhabitants were warned at God's authority of God's fury at their idolatry. He was perceived as a man of confrontation, and people saw him as the devil, but Calvin perceived peril at the hand of God. He was highly controversial, served not well liked, and he was made to move from town to town. Often he had to leave in a hurry. His greatest campaign or sermon came in the city of Neuchatel in the autumn. He ruthlessly used ideas and communicated with his most famous with the placard affair of 1535, where he posted sins. Let's see. The massive villains, marauders, thieves, renounced of Jesus Christ, and seducers of the people. In 1530, he a crazy crowd which he incited, where he stormed a cathedral in Neuchatel, where he spoke against images. The crowd started by speech. The crowd turned on on their science, culture, and investments in fear and destruction. The force of the crowd violence accelerated the Reformation to a decision, and a slight majority they decided to vote for the Reformation. He was protected by the officials in Bern and its large military force. The rulers of Bern encouraged Farel. They turned a blind eye to what he was doing. Farel and his fellow ministers acted in destruction against the Catholic Church in the dead of night, and it was destroyed. The battle between a small but fanatical number of reformers and large Catholic population early resisted to the Reformation. So in 1536, everything changed with the Bernese troops marched westward and took over the lands. So they went back and forth, and they were Calvin and this guy Farel was threatened to not refuse communion to the host city, so they were waiting on the magistrates to rule. So they were kicked out of their office and told to leave town. And the two men went to Zurich.